Hey guys, it's me, Abby, and welcome to my channel. So I'm starting a new journey into nursing school, so I thought it'd be really great to kind of document my journey, give tips, and just live life on the internet. So it was really helpful for me to find other YouTubers who either actually went to the school I'm going to or just went through the process. So this first video is pretty much everything pre-application, mid-application, and post-application. So this is my experience as well as what I've heard and gathered, tips and tricks, whatever. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so for me, I applied to what's called an ABSN program, an Accelerated Bachelor Science in Nursing program. So these are specifically for students who already have obtained a bachelor's degree in any other field and want to pretty much fast track their way into nursing. So the first thing I did was research schools of interest. This is a very rough overview. That's just kind of how I started. It included ABSN programs and entry-level Master of Science of Nursing programs, which are I think EMSNs. So at the time I just wasn't really sure, so I just kind of left it open. Just literally looking at schools in states that I was interested in, that kind of looked good or caught my eye, I've heard about them, stuff like that. So then after that, I kind of made a really rough draft list. So this was by no means, finalized. It was just okay, I would be fine going to schools here. I don't want to go to school in, I don't know, some state that I just am not really interested in. So that was just kind of simple elimination and what I wanted to keep. And then based off of that, I started kind of going through and writing down things I would probably need for that application. So do they need the TEAS exam and letter of recs? What prerequisites? Just a general overview. A lot of them do have overlap, so that's really great. But some of them do request specific things or need you to do specific qualifications. So that's just kind of how I started with a rough list. And you'll also see kind of how I started my list, how I categorized it. This is literally just using Word documents. You can use anything you want, a piece of paper. I just did Word because it was easy. And I then realized that a lot of schools have fall start, spring, and summer. So that's really... Okay. So that's really great if you are kind of finishing up some other prereqs or you're working, you need a little bit more time. There might be a program start for you at basically any time of the year. So after that, I since things are kind of gonna start rolling really fast, I decided to reach out to people I wanted to write my letters of recommendation. And I emailed them just to kind of say hey, it's been quarantine, coronavirus, it's crazy. And so my thinking was, let me give you the biggest heads up I can and see if you're willing to write me a strong letter of recommendation. I also have a really helpful link that is really good for any level of relationship you have with a recommender. So whether that's you know them really well or you don't really know them really well, just kind of depends. But it was a really helpful link, and you literally just copy and paste and edit out the parts that relate to yourself. So I sent out those emails just to see if they would say yes. And after I did, then I just responded, of course, thank you very much, everything, blah, blah, blah. And then saying, okay, what I'll do is I'll follow up with you in 2 to 3 weeks with a specific timeline that I'm looking to apply in. You definitely want to give your recommenders time, and it's just great to at least know you have somebody to ask. Then I started calling schools. So this is one thing I didn't think of doing. And once I started sending inquiries online to schools, a lot of them have request more information. Once I sent those out and they started calling me, I realized, whoa, you need to call your schools. So of course it's going to give you an impression of the school, kind of how intentional they are. And then also it's way faster. You can find out, is the school a good fit for me? Am I a good fit for the school? So I would say do be prepared for kind of a mini interview over the phone. It's nothing super serious. It's just that a lot of them will ask the same questions, why do you want to go into nursing? How did you get into this journey? What are your main goals in a program? What are you looking for in a program, that kind of stuff. So it's very good to just kind of like know a rough answer to those questions, because you will get them a lot. And it's just great because I would get information and be like, you know what, thank God I asked, because I don't actually want to apply here, or oh my gosh, I didn't know that aspect of the program, it wasn't online, thanks for letting me know. So you can always do everything by email, of course, if you're not the most confident over the phone. It's just a faster option, and it really starts a one-on-one relationship with a lot of schools who have admissions counselors. So there's a lot of different programs out there, and there's a lot of hybrid programs, a lot of in-person programs, distance learning programs. So you make sure you do your research, ask questions, find out what's best for your learning style or your situation, whether you have a family or you need to work, or literally whatever it is. There's a lot of options out there, which is really great to accommodate all sorts of lifestyles. So during the process of phone calls, I'm adding information. I just would pull up my phone and write notes, so I could kind of think about, would I really like this program? Do I like where it's at? Like, could I see myself living in the state? Just kind of get, like, also hearing from them, like, what's the tuition like? What options do they have in terms of scholarships or loans or anything like that. Another thing that's super helpful is requesting a transcript review. So some schools do offer this option that they'll do themselves. Some schools just kind of give you the list and you can do it on your own. I preferred them to do it just because they had their versions of the class with their course description. They knew exactly what they were looking for. Other schools just weren't, like, they seemed way too busy or just not interested in helping you in that regard. I had a lot of great experiences asking for transcript reviews. A lot of times I would just email them an unofficial transcript that I had, and they just went through, told me anything I was missing or anything that they needed to clarify, anything like that. Some schools do not offer that, which really blows, but it is possible to do it on your own. It just sometimes doesn't feel as secure because you're not always 100% sure they'll accept that class, even if it's like a general course that should be accepted. I did run into that problem. So that's definitely something I would explore, is getting a transcript review if they do offer that. A lot of schools do have examples of admitted students' resumes, kind of like where their GPA was at, their TEAS score was, any extracurricular activities, stuff like that. After I made my phone calls and did as much research as I could online, I made kind of a plan for myself. So you kind of want to create a plan of attack. So that would include everything from applying, everything you would need, documents, exams, transcripts, anything of that sort, to letters of rep, personal statement, things like that. So I kind of just made this plan of attack and used, of course, the school's pages to find out when applications were due, are they rolling admissions, or do they have interviews, all that kind of information. So I kind of knew where my application cycle would kind of start and when it would end. And then obviously, because it's very important to get your application in on time, most schools will not make an exception for you at this at this level, if any level. You do need to be like on top of your stuff, but it's not impossible. You just got to plan. So I just kind of put aside, like, okay, this school I can start today, whatever I can do. Some of the applications are really, really easy in terms of just fill out your name and put your resume and whatever, send our transcripts. Other schools were a little bit more complex just because they want stuff sent here, sent there, email this, mail. It was super confusing at times. So that's why I would say kind of make your plan early. And what's also helpful is then you can go ahead and reach out to your recommenders and ask them, does this timeline work for you? Whatever. And also asking them, do you want me to check in with you? You know the person really well and you think that they'll be fine without you kind of checking in with them like a week before. You won't have to really do anything. Some like other students I know who've asked for letters of recs, their people just kind of like are, they do want to do it, they just have a lot of other responsibilities and can benefit from just a simple email, just checking in, hey, blah blah. And that's definitely something that I would keep on radar. Some schools will want you to take the TEAS exam, and it's basically, you know, if you're applying to med school or law school, you take the LSAT or the oh my god, my brain just broke. You take the MCAT or the LSAT for, you know, whatever school you're going into, and it's basically an exam that's kind of it's going to level the playing field by having you take a standardized test and seeing where you match up against other people. So the TEAS exam can suck in the aspect that you're just taking a test. Like, no one really wants to do that. But the pro is, if you feel like you're not as competent in the grades portion of things, or maybe your hours for you know, in the hospital or whatever aren't that great, this is a good way to boost your application. So you can, you know, do tons of research on how people study for the TEAS exam. I personally started studying for the TEAS exam, and I'll go ahead and post the book and the program I was using, but I ended up not actually needing to do it, which was great. So I just stopped studying for it because I didn't want to do it. But it's definitely doable. Something else to know is sometimes the schools, if they're rolling admissions and you're applying at different times, you might hear back from one school way before the other, or one school might not be rolling admissions and you won't hear anything back. So it can be kind of like a sloppy process. There's not always a way to control it. So I would just try and apply around the same time if you responding is time sensitive. That's why kind of asking your recommenders to submit their letters at the same time you're applying will help your application be streamlined and just go through faster, so that if you kind of need to hear back, you'll know with enough time to make a decision, rather than like, oh, I gave my recommender a month space to you know, submit their recommendation, and now I'm waiting just on their letter for my application to be reviewed. So that's why it's kind of important to get in there early, know your dates, and know what time squeezes you might be pressed by. So moving forward, by now your list is going to get pretty narrowed down. After calling schools, after talking to people, you're going to get a better idea of what you're working with. And if you're able to, visiting the campus is always a pro. You know, you'll get to see the campus firsthand. You'll get to see what the facility looks like, the surrounding area. To me, that was super important. During that time, you'll also want to order your transcripts. They're usually very fast if it's electronic, but just don't stress yourself out by waiting. It's very simple to find the page for your transcripts, bookmark it, and then just order, you know, a ton of them if you need to, or just, you know, easily find the link and order the transcripts. And something that's really helpful as well is using the tabs on your email page. So I use Gmail, but I'm sure other platforms have this. So what I did was, once I was starting to receive emails or I was ordering transcripts and I was getting receipts, is I started like color tabbing emails so that I could just kind of have separate folders for each school, and I could access things if they said, oh, we haven't received your transcript, or here's important information on financial aid. I always could go to the school's link and find the information I needed. Another thing you'll also be looking at is, you know, personal statements. My advice for personal statements is just start them. Like, don't put them off. Just literally sit there with your computer, tell yourself for 15 minutes, I'm just going to write on this piece of paper. It doesn't matter what it sounds like, just start. The worst part of personal statements, and I've written plenty of them, is starting. So once you start, at least you have something, and you'll find it's not as bad as you think. So starting early will not only kind of lift that burden, because oftentimes it was like the big thing, you know, looming over me. It'll get you started, but it also gives you plenty of time to get it proofread, for people to proofread it, for you to step away from it and come back and see if there's anything you want to edit. Other things are video statements. So sometimes a school will have you do a video, you know, like you'll post it on YouTube, and you just dress how they tell you. Usually it's like business casual, and then you just answer a couple questions. What I did for those was I kind of typed my answers out on like a Word doc, and then I just kind of rehearsed it. I didn't memorize it because I knew I could just kind of like almost like manuscript read, where I could just kind of like glance down. I knew what I was going to be talking about. I just wanted to make sure it was a good representation of who I am and the work I can give. So that's kind of a tip on that. then you're actually going to apply. So once you're, you meet your deadlines, whatever, you're applying, you pay your fee. There's usually an application fee, which blows, but whatever, it is what it is. You'll do your application and, you give yourself a high five. You did it. You applied to ABSN programs or whatever it may be. Treat yourself, because that was not easy. And you did it. So it might be nerve-wracking, but now everything's out and all you can do is wait to hear. So of course, make sure you're looking out on your email just in case, they let you know that they need to hear from you for something or anything like that. So that's why it's always nice to submit a little bit early. So if there's a problem, you can get stuff in before the deadline. So you'll start hearing back, hopefully positive news. If not, do not fret. It's not any indication that you cannot go down this path if it's what you really want. So once I, started hearing back from schools, I was able to start finalizing my list and say like, okay, I got into this school, but you know what, I don't even want to go there. Like, I'd rather go here. So once you hear back from schools, you'll want to go ahead and figure out when your deposits might be due. During this time, you might also hear back or, really find out specifically if any school needs something from you. So whether it's a prereq that you still have ongoing or if they demand specific prereqs. So a lot of private schools will require you to take schools at their university or take classes you might not have taken just in your general education. So you might need to look into that. A lot of them do give you options like, oh, a lot of our students tend to take their classes here online, it's really fast, whatever. So if that's something you need to do, of course, make sure you're keeping up on, on all those things and possibly enrolling in classes, since now you're getting your acceptance, it might be very soon. Once you're getting everything in, hearing everything back and you've got all your information to help you make the best choice for yourself and you've made it, congratulations. So you've been admitted, you have your choice, and you're ready to go. So now this is when I really got into Facebook groups. So I'd be like, oh, I'm a new student, I'm moving, blah, 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 kind of like hearing from students moving from all over the United States, like what towns do you live in? What do you guys recommend? What's the, hearing more and more. And also people are like selling things to students, like incoming students, to save money, or posting, hey, I'm moving out, I have this room if somebody wants to rent it, or this is a job I used to have if somebody wants to apply for it, that kind of stuff. So it just kind of started the community. So I didn't really go in depth about what made me choose the school I'm going to. I just already know this video is way too freaking long for that, so I'm not going to talk about it. Of course, what I tried to keep in mind was what is going to be the best option for me, and also what can grow me, whether that's being in a new place or what options do they have in terms of clinicals and all these types of things. So there's tons of questions to ask yourself, to ask the school. And the way I tried to pacify any of my anxiety and, over questioning was that whatever choice I make will just be the right choice, that no matter what, I will figure it out. And if it's really awful, I'll still figure it out. Now we're kind of reaching the point that I'm in, after you make your choice or whatever, and you're on the groups, you're talking, you start getting emails like, oh, immunizations and all this kind of stuff. It's super exciting. So that's the stage I'm at now, where I'm starting to look for apartments. Everything's happening really fast. So I'm excited to keep everybody, included, and just to even have something to look back on when I'm practicing or retired, whatever, I don't know. And yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm hoping that this YouTube channel can just be a place for people to chat, and also for me to share my life and things that I'm doing and or going through. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, if I jumped over anything you want to know, please ask in the comments down below and I'll do my best to respond. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.